Arkansas. Hallie Shoffner, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So we hear Arkansas, and I think a lot of people are going to write that state off. Why is Arkansas in play in 2026?
Well, I think for a couple of reasons. I think number one, we are entering a time in economic instability in which it's becoming more and more difficult for Arkansans to afford basic things like food and gas. One of the things that I bring to the table, I'm a sixth generation farmer. I'm from rural Arkansas. I grew up in a town that is literally called Shoffner, Arkansas. It is where my family has been living and farming for 150 years. And I grew up in the fields as the sixth generation. I grew up farming alongside my parents, learning how to grow the traditional Arkansas commodities, which is soybeans, corn, rice, wheat, cotton, and grain sorghum. And I learned from them the importance of, I think, what really reflects a general value in Arkansas, which is that you live your life and you are successful through sweat and service to your community. And I have worked hard my whole life. I mean, I've done well in school. I was valedictorian at my high school. I got a full ride scholarship to Vanderbilt University. I came home and got a Master of Public Service from the school that President Clinton founded here in Little Rock. And I went back to the farm. I've been farming for 9 years as the primary operator. And I became an advocate for family farms like mine, for environmental conservation, regenerative farming. Like many Arkansans, I fulfilled the value of working hard and serving the community. But ultimately, that doesn't mean anything if the system is broken. So this year, along with hundreds of other farmers in Arkansas, we made the heartbreaking decision to close. And because it didn't matter what we did or what crops we planted, it wasn't enough. And you don't have to be a farmer in Arkansas to know what that feels like. Too many of us know what it's like to work hard and do everything right and still fall behind, not because we've failed, but because the system is fundamentally rigged against us. And it is politicians like Tom Cotton who are doing the rigging, creating an economy that favors the success of corporations, politicians, and their buddies over real people like Arkansas farmers, like small business owners, like workers in our factories and their families. What is, I think, compelling about the race that we have is that Arkansans are waking up and realizing that Tom Cotton went to DC years ago, 10 plus years ago, dug himself in with his lobbying money and his corporate PAC money, and he forgot all about us. He pulled the ladder up behind him. And we are now ready for real representation, someone that's going to go to DC, represent the real people of Arkansas, and restore the balance and collaboration that we need to solve some of the extreme economic problems that are affecting Arkansans. We are a state that is very poor, that is very unhealthy, and that is very hungry. And people are ready for a representative who not only reflects the values of working in Arkansas, but also simply caring about those issues.
What would you like to usher in that Tom Cotton wasn't able to do or said he was going to do but didn't deliver on that you think Arkansans would be obviously receptive to?
I mean, for Arkansas, we've been struggling for many years with declining rates of educational quality. We have high rates of poverty and disease. Our rural communities are being gutted by lack of economic development. And Tom Cotton came in on a message of change. We had a pretty solidly Democratic representation. He came in and said, they're not reflecting the values of Arkansas anymore. And so Arkansans voted out those representatives. But then he turns around and does exactly the same thing, digging himself in, hiding behind his own national ambitions. And Arkansans have woken up and realized that, he goes on social media and he whines and complains about everything other than what we care about,
Yeah,
which is why is it that we can't afford our groceries anymore?
right.
Why is it we can't fill up our cars? Why is it that our jobs in our rural communities are disappearing? Why is it that farmers are going out of business? I On Tuesday this week, we went to an emergency meeting of farmers. 500 farmers showed up in a small town in Northeast Arkansas to meet with the legislative liaisons of Senator Cotton, Senator Bozeman, and Representative Crawford's office. And in that room, you could see the fear. Because the truth is that we are now living in an economy that has eliminated the markets for farmers, that has made it to where inflation has overtaken our profits. And if we don't do something, at minimum, one in every three farmers in Arkansas will go out of business by February of next year, possibly one in every two. And you could see that in the room. A one woman stood up, she's an ag lender, and she said that this year, five of her clients have committed suicide. Another woman stood up and said at 10 o'clock that morning, her husband and his son were headed to the bank to shut it all down. And I know what that feels like. And, I got up and I told my story. I said, I'm the sixth generation of my family. My son will not be the seventh. I am praying that we do get assistance from the government. But at the end of the day, farmers don't want handouts. We want markets. And we need leaders who not only care about what's happening to farmers, which Tom Cotton doesn't, but also have a vision for the future. One thing we say in Arkansas is you can't fence time. That means you can't stop the future. You have to have vision. You have to plan for it. You can't go backwards.
On this idea of, I guess, setting yourself up for success and planning for the future, we have seen numerous instances where Donald Trump has engaged in these trade wars. He's doing it right now. He did it back in his first term. And a lot of soybean farmers, for example, they were impacted because, other countries would find markets elsewhere. They would go to Argentina. Even now, there are folks who are looking to Australia to buy beef, for example. And when the trade wars end, we've seen that the customers don't often return to where they initially were buying because, supply chains have changed, and the volatility in the market also shows them that, hey, maybe this isn't a reliable customer for us anymore. And so they'll move their markets away from American farmers into, again, South American farmers, Australian farmers, wherever it may be. And so to what extent has that impacted the folks in Arkansas? And almost more importantly, from a political perspective, are folks in Arkansas recognizing that impact that comes as the result of Trump's actions?
And I think that we are certainly realizing as a farming community that our markets are disappearing and that they're not coming back. And I could totally get into the weeds, no pun intended, about sort of how we got here. Um, in 2018, we had the first trade war with China, and we lost about 15% of the market that we had in China. And so the government gave us MFP, which was a $9 billion payment approximately to farmers to kind of
Stave off the bleeding, yeah,
offset those losses. And but then we turned around and we never actually fixed the problem.
yeah.
Some of that market came back a little bit, but then we added on, of course, COVID and supply chain disruption, inflation, the conflict in Ukraine has affected our fertilizer prices. So here we are again, in the exact same situation we were before in 2018. Nothing has been done to create more market opportunities between 2018 and now. And now we are adding on another trade war, and we have lost our Chinese market for soybeans. We've lost it. And China was prepared for this. They have the Belt and Road Initiative. They went to Brazil and they built up an entire infrastructure to provide themselves with all the soybeans they need. So instead of buying from the United States as the primary market for soybeans, we aren't even the secondary market anymore. We're
Yeah.
the tertiary market.
Yeah.
What I said in the public comments at that meeting on Tuesday was that you can throw money at us right now, and we're going to need it. You're going to have to save the farming community. That is needed. Food production is national security. Do not throw money at us and think that's going to solve the problem.
Right.
We need an updated farm bill. We need to be able to diversify. We need to have control over our own futures by having more options. And we're simply not getting that. And the reason is because our leaders have no vision for the future. And I would like to say that this is exclusive to farmers. It's not. My husband has a small business too. He provides IT services to small businesses. And what he's seeing is the same thing as what we're seeing, which is that you either have small businesses just going under entirely because the cost of everything is too high, or you have them sitting back and saying, you know what, we're going to sit back on our heels. And while the economy is uncertain, we are
Right,
not going to invest in growth. We are not going to add on new jobs. We are not going to borrow money for expansions because we don't know what the future holds.
right.
And that is going, I would like to say that is going to make the economy circle the drain. And I'm not talking about a faucet is dripping. I'm talking about you're flushing a toilet.
You know, the interesting thing, having mentioned the Belt and Road Initiative, is that was China's response to USAID. And when the Trump administration and Elon Musk decided to gut USAID and eliminate all of American soft power around the world, it's not like China wasn't prepared. It's not like they haven't been preparing for this. And so when we leave the international scene and that creates a vacuum, not only was China prepared to step in and fill that void, but they already had been. They had already been laying that foundation, that framework to be able to do exactly that. And so it's so ironic that for these people who fearmonger so much about the dangers of an ascendant China, all they've done by virtue of their actual policy is exacerbate and to hasten China's
Yeah.
ascent, the very ascent that they were lamenting just prior to that. Um,
And you're talking about Tom Cotton. The man wrote a book about China that he has been hawking.
yeah. And I'm
And
assuming he didn't have much to say when with the gutting of USAID and basically handing Elon Musk the keys to the kingdom.
yeah. Well, and that took $2 billion away from farmers.
Yeah,
USAID was responsible for $2 billion in crop receipts for farmers, including a lot of rice from Arkansas. We're the top rice producing state in the country.
yeah.
We lost tons of contracts. I have friends who lost Canadian contracts this year for rice. It is, and it's really at the heart of it. You know, Tom Cotton talks about, oh, well, we need to run the government like a business. Well, I'm a small business owner. Farmers are small businesses. What they are doing right now to the US government is bad business.
Yeah.
If you take massive chunks out of our operating budget and then you simultaneously give tax cuts to trillionaire like billionaires and then you add trillions to the federal deficit, that is a recipe for disaster. Anybody in the world will say that is bad business.
Yeah, and that's reflected in the jobs report that we just saw. 22,000 jobs added. Compared to I think during the last Democratic administration, the average was 377,000 jobs. Now we have
Yeah.
22,000 jobs added, and the manufacturing sector has been absolutely gutted in the last 3 months since Liberation Day. We've lost, I believe, a net total of 42,000 manufacturing jobs in this country.
Mhm.
I do want to end on a bit of a high note here, and that is how are you looking at some of these recent special election victories for Democrats? You could look, to another Midwestern state in Iowa and see that there have been
Mhm.
4 races thus far where Democrats have swung roughly 20 points, anywhere from 10 to 20 points to the left. And so, how are you looking at these special elections happening across the country? Not just in Midwestern states. We've seen races in Pennsylvania, we've seen races in Florida show the exact same thing. And how does that make you think about your race in Arkansas?
I mean, I really think it comes down to being able to put out candidates who are real people. So much of our politics now is a performance,
Yeah.
right? You know, our politicians are getting on social media and they're whining about everything except the economy. And people vote with their pocketbooks and they vote for people that they feel truly represent them. I mean, the reason that my campaign has gained so much traction is because I'm a farmer. I know what it's like to work outside in the elements. I know what it's like to work hard, and I know what it's like to work hard and not make it because the system is rigged for politicians like Tom Cotton instead of for real people like me. I think people are hungry for that kind of change. And I also tell people, you know, I'm an Arkansan. I love Arkansas. This is my home. I want to keep 10 toes in Arkansas all the time. And all I really wanted to do was farm. But if I can't farm, I'm going to fight for workers and families, small businesses like mine. We have to restore again that balance and that collaboration in DC that we desperately need. I also think that for I say this too, I am not here to pass a party purity test. I'm not here to pass a Democrat Party purity test or a Republican Party purity test. At the end of the day, my main priority is the health and the prosperity of the people of my state.
For folks who are watching and listening right now, how can they help your campaign?
They can donate to my campaign through my website, which is HallieShoffner.com. I am on all of the social media channels, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Please follow. I usually do about a video every day or a post talking about, again, the things that matter to Arkansas. I talk about farming, I talk about healthcare. Um, what I always tell people is that early investment in a state like Arkansas, especially one that is going to end up being as competitive as mine,
Yeah.
is going to be truly important because it means we can set up the infrastructure we need to win. And I also tell people, look, we're not going to outraise Tom Cotton, but we're sure as hell going to outwork him. And I'm a farmer. I know what that means.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to put that link to your website on the screen and also in the post description of this video. Also, for everybody who's watching right now, stick around because I'm going to put Hallie's latest ad. I'm going to let that play out for the rest of the video so that you can take a look. If you have not yet watched it, trust me, you'll want to watch it. Hallie, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
I grew up here on this farm, in these fields, started working them when I was 10 years old, and spent nearly a decade doing everything I could to keep this farm running. There's no place that means more to me. I'm Hallie Shoffner, a sixth-generation Arkansas farmer and small business owner. But this year, I had to shut our farm down. Because like hundreds of other Arkansas farmers, no matter how hard we worked or what crops we planted, it wasn't enough.
This year has been so hard for Arkansas farmers.
Farmers have little to no hope of breaking even this year.
And while we were fighting to keep our farms afloat, Tom Cotton was fighting against us, voting against the Farm Bill, twice. Maybe he'd know how much we need it if he stopped to listen to real Arkansans, but he hasn't. Instead of holding town halls to hear from us, he hosts fancy dinners for the people who are funding his political career, while voting for trillions in tax cuts for billionaires and land barons that are driving up prices while we struggle just to get by. It's a system rigged against Arkansans by both Republicans and Democrats, and I've had enough of it. We need a senator who knows what it's like to bet the future on a field, who will fight to protect our health care and bring costs down so we can afford gas, groceries, and the mortgage, who will actually be here in Arkansas. That's not Tom Cotton, but it is me, and that's why I'm running for the U.S. Senate, because there's nothing I'd rather do than farm. But if I can't farm, I'm gonna fight for our farms, for Arkansas, and for you.